Night held its breath over Sunbird Village. The moon was a silver bowl turned upside down, and the wind carried the soft beat of a lonely drum. Maya stood by the old well, holding a clay lamp. She had come to pray for courage for the big festival. A shadow moved behind the tamarind tree. A step. A whisper. Then a hand that once braided her hair and tied ribbons at school reached into a small bottle. The bottle hissed when its cork came off. A sharp smell cut the air like a knife. The shadow stepped closer. It was her best friend. The hand pulled back. The bottle tipped. The liquid flew. And at that exact second the drum stopped beating. Days before the moon became a silver bowl, Sunbird Village woke to a ribbon of sun across the red road. Chickens argued in the dust. Goats made tiny clouds with their feet. Children raced like raindrops. In a square painted by long shadows, Maya sat under the wide baobab with a basket of bright cloth. She was small and quick, with patient eyes that looked like river stones. When she smiled, people said they felt warm, the way you feel when a story ends well. Beside her sat her best friend, Alyssa. They had grown up like two vines wrapped around the same stick. Alyssa's fingers were fast with beads, and her laugh was loud like a bell. Everyone in Sunbird Village knew the girls' names the way they knew the taste of their own water. Maya and Alyssa, the elders would say, two hands that clap one sound. Hold the ribbon, Alyssa said, and Maya held it while Alyssa braided colors like a rainbow learning to walk. They were making headpieces for the mask festival, the biggest day of the year. Drums would sing. Dancers would twirl. The best maker would win a golden calabash filled with prize money and a promise from a famous city filmmaker from across the ocean, Mr. Carter, to put their work on screens and make their name known. Imagine, Alyssa whispered, eyes shining, our designs in movies. Imagine money like 100 rainstorms. I want my name on billboards. Maya nodded. I want a clinic for Sunbird Village. And a school with new books. She pressed a bead into its place. Grandma Ruth says, the river drinks for the forest, not only for itself. Alyssa's mouth tightened for just a second. Yes, a clinic is nice. Across the square, Grandma Ruth sold roasted corn and stories. Her back was bent but her tongue was straight. Sometimes people said the drum listened to her because the drum liked to hear itself in her words. She called to the girls, do not forget, kindness is a seed that grows even on stone. We won't forget, Grandma, Maya called. The wind tugged at her braids as if the wind, too, was a friend. That morning, the drum carried another beat. A rumor moved like a lizard's tail. Quick, small, but you saw it. People whispered that Mr. Carter was hunting for a face with a story. He had said it at the last market day. A face that speaks to the world, he told the elders. A face that makes people stop and then keep watching. The words stuck to ears and made people's hearts hop. Alyssa heard the rumor clearly. It stuck to her more than to others. She imagined cameras like curious birds, landing only on her shoulder. She imagined her name said in places where ice lived on windows. She imagined a crown you could not see but could feel. All day the village prepared. Boys fixed drums. Women stirred soup that smelled like peppers and hope. Men hung lanterns that would turn night into day. The sky slid from blue to gold. On the edge of the square, Mr. Carter stood with his camera on a tall leg. He had kind eyes like someone who has been lost and then found. I am looking for a face with a story, he said again, tapping the camera as if it could hear. A face that carries truth. People will listen to truth. You should see Maya, someone whispered. And Alyssa, said another. Mr. Carter wrote the names down. Tomorrow, he said. Tell them to come when the first drum speaks. The first drum spoke most mornings, but the next day it sounded like it had something tired to say. The sound drifted across a village full of stitched-together dreams. It woke a thin sadness inside Alyssa, like a string someone had forgotten to tie. She stared at her own face in a small mirror. It was a pretty face, smooth like the inside of a shell. She turned the mirror so it also caught Maya's reflection, laughing with a child across the courtyard. Alyssa frowned in a way that made her cheek look sharp. She hated the feeling. She hated that she hated. We are two hands that clap one sound, she whispered to herself, as if that could chase away the dark dog of envy. But the dog came closer. It wagged its tail like a friend. Maya, not seeing the dog, tied one of Alyssa's ribbons. We will do this together, she said softly. No matter who wins, we will clap for each other. Yes, Alyssa said, and her voice was light like feathers. But inside something heavy moved. Grandma Ruth's stall faced them. She peeled corn and did not look up when she said, "If your heart carries smoke, your eyes will sting. Put out the small fire before it becomes a wide fire." The drum thumped once like a warning. Alyssa blinked. "Grandma, why do you always speak to the sky?" "Because the sky answers children who think they are clouds," Grandma Ruth said. Then she looked at Alyssa with eyes that saw more than eyes usually see. "When you rejoice for your friend, your own joy learns the road to your house." Maya touched Alyssa's arm. "Let's go show Mr. Carter." "Go," Grandma Ruth said. "And go with a clean mouth. A clean mouth kisses the truth." They went. Mr. Carter looked at them, and for a moment nobody breathed. The wind did a small dance and the leaves trembled like shy hands. "Maya," he said, "your eyes are calm. They look like someone who has walked through a storm and still believes the sky will clear. Alyssa, your smile is brave, but it is covering something. Sometimes the covering is the story. Sometimes the thing under it is." He lifted his camera. "Tell me who you are." They spoke. Maya told him about wanting a clinic. About the way her mother had died when medicine was too far away. Her voice was steady like a drum you can follow. Alyssa spoke of shining, of being seen, of standing where big things happen. Her voice cracked once, like a twig under a foot. Mr. Carter listened. He filmed. He nodded. "Come to the well tonight," he said. "The moon there writes good lines on faces." "The old well?" Alyssa asked too fast. "Yes. Bring your best headpieces. We'll work by lamplight." Alyssa said yes with her mouth. But as they walked away, the dog inside her tugged the rope. The rumor about a face with a story grew teeth. What if the story had to be big? What if big meant broken? She shook her head. It was a wicked thought. It slid away, then crawled back like a crab. They passed the court square where one-day trials were held under the shade. The old judge's chair sat empty near a pillar. A robin perched on it, head tilted. Once, a thief had been judged there for stealing corn meant for widows. He had cried. He had gone to jail to sleep with his choices. The village liked to believe justice lived in that square like a quiet neighbor. "Justice is slow but it arrives," Grandma Ruth would say. "Even a one-legged tortoise reaches the river." Maya shivered for no reason she could name. She pressed her headpiece against her chest as if it were a shield. "We will be fine," she told Alyssa. "Tonight is just pictures." "Just pictures," Alyssa echoed, and her smile was a leaf trying to cover a stone. Afternoon put its hand across the sun. The market thinned. Maya went to check on little Daniel, the child she taught to read under the baobab. He was absent. His mother said he had a fever. Maya softened like warm wax. She brewed herbs and sat by their low doorway, fanning Daniel and reading him a simple book about a brave rabbit who did not run from the rain. Alyssa, walking home alone, passed the small shack at the edge of the road where a trader sold chemicals for cleaning brass pots. Bottles in many colors leaned in a row. The trader was not there. Only a plywood door squeaked in the breeze. Alyssa stopped. The dog in her heart barked once, eager. She pressed her hands to her ears, but of course the bark was inside. "No," she whispered. "No, no. We are two hands that clap one sound." She turned to walk away. But just then two teenage boys laughed behind her. "Alyssa," one shouted. "Are you ready for the camera? Or will Maya steal the light?" They meant nothing. They were foolish the way boys sometimes are. But their words hit the place where her envy had made a nest. She stood still. She watched her own breath come and go as if it belonged to someone else. "I am ready," she said, and the words tasted like iron. The dog sat. It watched her reach toward the bottles. Her fingers hovered, then snatched back. She ran home and slammed her door. She cried so hard that even the geckos went quiet. When she woke from a hard nap, the sun was a thin coin near the horizon. Her eyes were swollen. On her table lay the broken string of beads Maya never had time to fix because she was busy helping Daniel. Alyssa picked them up. The broken string looked like a road that had been stepped on. "I should fix these," she said. "I will fix these." Her hands shook, and she tried again and again until the beads obeyed. When they finally lined up, she smiled. It was small, but it was real. She put on her best headpiece. She walked to the well slowly, the dog trailing her like a shadow, quieter now, almost asleep. At the well, the moon spilled its silver. The old stones shone like old teeth. Maya had come early to whisper her prayer, the one she always said. "Let my work be a bridge people can walk on without fear." She held her little clay lamp. She hummed the brave rabbit song to keep herself steady. The night was gentle. The water sighed. "A step. Maya." Alyssa's voice was soft. Maya turned, smiling. "You came. I was about to fetch you. Mr. Carter will be here soon. Look, I fixed your ribbon the way you like." Alyssa stepped into the circle of light. Her face was smooth, but her eyes were tight as knotted string. She reached into her satchel. For one heartbeat, a mirror flashed. For the next heartbeat, a small bottle flashed. The cork slid out with a tiny pop that sounded too loud in the quiet. "What are you doing?" Maya whispered, not yet afraid, only puzzled. Alyssa's hand shook so hard the bottle trembled. I don't know," she said. Tears jumped to her lashes. "I don't know what is inside me." The dog lifted its head, fully awake. It bared its teeth. Some faraway owl called, and the call sounded like a warning the way thunder is a warning for rain. "Alyssa," Maya said quietly, taking a careful step. "We can still go back. We can still be two hands. We can still clap one sound." Alyssa squeezed her eyes shut as if that could squeeze out the wrong feeling. "I hate that I hate you sometimes," she said. "And I hate that I love you all the time." Her breath hitched. She thought of the boy's laugh. Mr. Carter's words. The rumor with teeth. The dreams that felt like ropes she could not climb. "I want a story," she whispered. "I want a story so big the world must look." "The world will look at us both," Maya pleaded. "Let the world look at our good, not our hurt." But the dog inside Alyssa lunged. Her hand moved before her heart could stop it. The bottle tilted. The liquid leaped. The lamp's small flame made it shine midair. For the first time in years, the old drum in the far compound fell silent, as if it knew what was coming and did not want to keep time for it. The silver moon froze. The liquid flew toward Maya's face. And just then a scream tore the night. Sharp, human, close, and a pair of hands grabbed Alyssa's wrist from the dark. The bottle jerked, the stream bent, the liquid arced wild. It splashed, the air hissed, the stones spat, the lamp went out, the night filled with the smell of something angry. Mr. Carter ran into the circle with his camera swinging, breath raw, eyes wide. "What have you done?" he cried. Alyssa fell to her knees, shaking like a leaf in storm wind. Maya clutched her face and stumbled backward, a sound low in her throat. Not a scream, not a word, something new and terrible trying to be born. From the edge of the square, Grandma Ruth's voice rose, not loud, but it carried like fire. "Stop! Water! Now!" People came from the dark, feet pounding, hearts louder than drums. Someone appended a calabash. Someone else pulled off a shawl. Someone shouted for the healer. The well groaned as a bucket flew down and back up, sloshing and spilling. As water met skin and the night boiled with cries, the robin that liked the judge's chair woke and lifted into the air. It circled once, twice, 3 times over the well, then darted toward the court square, as if to wake the empty chair and call the law to its place. The drum found its voice again. It struck a hard, broken beat that sounded like footsteps running and doors opening and a gavel about to fall. And far beyond the village, in a city where screens glowed like midnight rivers, a news alert blinked awake in a reporter's phone, though nobody in Sunbird Village knew it yet. The liquid had flown. The moon had watched. The drum had warned. Now the night held its breath again, waiting to see who would live inside this story and who would stand to answer for it. The night broke into cries. People gathered around the well with torches that made shadows dance like frightened spirits. The smell of burning cloth and acid hung in the air. Maya lay against the stones, her hands pressed to her face, trembling. Alyssa was on her knees, shaking so hard she could not lift her head. Mr. Carter, the filmmaker, had dropped his camera in the dust, his chest heaving. "Water!" Grandma Ruth shouted again, her voice sharp like a whip. Men pulled bucket after bucket from the well. Women tore their wrappers into strips and pressed them to Maya's skin, whispering prayers that rose like smoke. But every whisper was broken by Maya's soft cries. Alyssa watched, frozen. Her hands, the same hands that had once braided Maya's hair, now smelled of acid. She wanted to scream. She wanted to wake up. But this was no dream. Her envy had grown teeth, and those teeth had bitten. "Who did this?" one of the elders demanded, pointing to the broken bottle that lay on the ground, its glass wet with poison. His eyes moved to Alyssa. Her head was still bent, her face hidden, but silence was its own confession. The crowd gasped. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Someone hissed her name like it was no longer human. "Alyssa," Grandma Ruth said, her voice slow and heavy. "You poured acid on your own sister's face? You tried to turn her beauty into ashes." I didn't mean to," Alyssa stammered, her words drowned in sobs. I only wanted the world to see me too." Her voice cracked, and the whole village knew. Envy had eaten her heart like fire eats dry wood. The elders did not shout. They did not curse. They only looked at her with eyes filled with something colder than hate, disappointment. "Take her to the court square," one of them ordered. "This must be judged in the light, not in the dark." Two strong men grabbed Alyssa by the arms. She didn't fight. Her legs moved without strength, carrying her toward the same square where thieves had been tried before. The robin that had circled the night now perched again on the judge's empty chair, its eyes glinting like iron. The crowd followed. The drum in the distance struck a hollow beat that sounded like footsteps marching to justice. Maya was carried carefully, wrapped in cloth, her body shivering though the night was warm. Mr. Carter walked beside her, his face pale, whispering, "Hold on. Please hold on." His camera lay abandoned at the well, but in his mind every image of this night burned forever. When they reached the square, the elders sat beneath the baobab. The villagers gathered in a circle, torches lighting their faces. Alyssa stood in the middle, her wrists bound with cloth. "Why, Alyssa?" an elder asked. His voice was not angry, only tired. "What evil did Maya do to you?" Alyssa's lips shook. She wanted to say nothing. She wanted the earth to swallow her. But Grandma Ruth's eyes pinned her like nails. "Speak," the old woman commanded. Tears blurred Alyssa's vision. "I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid that her face would shine brighter than mine. Afraid she would win and I would be forgotten. I thought if her beauty was gone, then the world would look at me." Her words fell like rotten fruit, sour and heavy. The crowd murmured in disgust. "Envy is the mask of a coward," one elder said. "And envy has brought you to this place." The air was thick. The only sound was the crackle of torches and Maya's soft groans from where she lay, attended by the healer. Then the gavel fell. The old judge, a man with a beard as white as salt, raised his hand. "Alyssa, you have tried to destroy what the Creator gave. You have harmed the sister of your soul. For this, you will be taken to the city court tomorrow. Justice must walk in the open, not hide in the village." People nodded. Some spat on the ground near Alyssa's feet. Others turned away, unable to look at her anymore. As the crowd began to break apart, a sound cut through the air, the sound of Maya's voice. "Weak but clear," she whispered. "Do not hate her. Heads turned. Even the drum fell silent again. She was my friend, Maya said, her words trembling like leaves. Let her answer for what she has done, but do not let hate make you blind as it made her. The healer pressed her shoulder, but Maya had already said enough. Her mercy hung in the air, heavy as a blessing, heavy as a curse. That night, Alyssa was tied in the storeroom beside the court square, guarded by 2 men with spears. She wept until her body ached, whispering Maya's name over and over. But her whispers did not undo her deed. And in the healer's hut, Maya lay with her face wrapped in bandages. She could not see. She could not touch her skin without pain. But she felt something stir deep inside her chest, a fire that was not anger, not fear, but something else. Something stronger. The village slept uneasily, knowing tomorrow would bring police, jail, and the sound of iron doors closing. But none of them knew that the face Alyssa had tried to destroy would one day make Maya more powerful than she could ever imagine. For now, all they knew was that dawn was coming. And with it, the judgment of the city. The sun rose with a heavy face the next morning, as though it too knew shame lived in Sunbird Village. Birds called, but their songs were thin. The air smelled of dust and sorrow. Villagers gathered in the square, waiting for the sound of the police truck that would come from the city. Maya lay in the healer's hut, her face wrapped tight with white cloth. Each time she moved, pain burned like fire under her skin. She tried to keep her breath steady, but her chest heaved as if she had run a long distance. She could not see the faces bending over her, only shadows of light pressing against the bandages. She heard Grandma Ruth's voice, soft but firm. "Child, you are alive. Life itself is a gift. Do not forget this." Mr. Carter sat in a wooden chair by the door. His camera hung around his neck again, but he had not lifted it once. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. "This is not the story I came to tell," he whispered. But even as he said it, part of him knew the truth. The world would want to see. Outside, the drum began a slow, steady beat, the sound of arrival. Dust rose on the horizon as the police truck rumbled into the village. Children clutched their mothers' wrappers. Men crossed their arms. Women shook their heads, their lips moving in silent prayers. The truck stopped in the square. 2 officers in navy uniforms stepped down. Their boots sank into the dust with a sound that made the earth seem smaller. The elder judge approached them, his staff tapping the ground. "We bring you Alyssa," he said, his voice even. She poured acid on her sister's face. She must answer to the law. Alyssa was led forward. Her wrists were bound. Her head was bowed. The villagers hissed her name like a curse. Spat. Some turned away. The officers pulled her into the truck. She did not resist. But before the door shut, she lifted her head just once. Her eyes swept across the crowd, searching, desperate. Then they landed on Maya, being carried out of the healer's hut on a wooden stretcher so she could give her statement. Even wrapped in cloth, Maya's presence was like a flame. Alyssa's lips parted. Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. But Maya could not see her. The bandages held her world in darkness. The truck door slammed. The drum stopped. The engine growled, and Alyssa was gone, swallowed by the road to the city jail. The square emptied slowly, but the whispers stayed. Envy destroys. She was her own sister. The law will eat her now. In the healer's hut, the silence was deep. Maya asked for water. Her voice was hoarse, cracked like old wood. When Grandma Ruth lifted the cup to her lips, Maya whispered, "Is she gone?" "Yes," Grandma Ruth said. "The law has taken her." For a moment Maya said nothing. Then she sighed. "Envy is a shadow. It grows when we turn our back to the light." Mr. Carter leaned forward, his hands clasped. "Maya, the world must hear this," he said. "Your voice, your story. It is bigger than you know." She turned her head toward his voice, though she could not see him. "The world," she whispered. "Yes, came for beauty. But what I found is greater than beauty. I found strength." His voice trembled, but his eyes burned. If you let me, I will take your story to the world. Grandma Ruth frowned. The girl has not healed. You speak of the world when she has not even seen her own face again. But Mr. Carter shook his head. Her story has already begun. What Alyssa meant for evil, the world will see as truth. That night, under the flicker of an oil lamp, he filmed Maya speaking. Her voice was soft but steady, each word drawn from pain and courage. She told of envy. She told of betrayal. She told of forgiveness. She told of survival. Her face was covered, but her words were uncovered, and that was enough. Days turned into weeks. Maya's wounds slowly closed, but her face was changed forever. Where once there had been smoothness, there were scars, ridges, and shadows of fire. The healer shook his head sadly. The world may never know her beauty again, he said. But he was wrong. For when Mr. Carter's film reached the city, it spread like wildfire. People stopped in the streets to watch. They cried. They clapped. They whispered her name. Maya. Magazines wrote her story. News anchors called her the girl with the brave voice. She became a symbol not of lost beauty but of strength, resilience, survival. The scars that Alyssa had meant to ruin her became the very thing that made her unforgettable. In Sunbird Village, children now sat under the baobab to hear Maya's words, recorded on tapes that traveled back from the city. Do not let envy eat your heart, she told them. Do not let hate blind your eyes. If someone tries to destroy you, rise brighter than before. She was still healing, still learning to live in her new skin. But her story was already making her more than she had ever dreamed. And in the city jail, Alyssa sat in a small cell, her hands trembling as she listened to guards whisper about Maya's fame. Each word was a blade. Each headline was a wound. But Alyssa did not know. The greatest trial had not yet come. For soon, the court would open its doors, the gavel would fall, and her sentence would be decided. And the entire nation would be watching. The courtroom in the city was nothing like the court square in Sunbird Village. Here the walls were tall, painted white and cold as stone. Ceiling fans spun slowly, buzzing like lazy bees. Long benches filled with strangers creaked under the weight of people who had come to see the girl who poured acid on her best friend. Reporters scribbled. Cameras flashed. Alyssa sat at the front, her wrists free now but her body trembling as if the chains were still on her. She had not eaten much in days. Her hair hung limp around her face. The whispers followed her everywhere. Monster! Jealous witch! She destroyed her own sister's face. But none of those words hurt as much as the memory of Maya's mercy, Maya's whisper on that night of fire. Do not hate her. That mercy pressed on her chest heavier than any curse. The judge entered. The gavel struck once, echoing like thunder. The courtroom fell silent. Alyssa Green, the judge's voice rang out, stern and sharp. You stand accused of grievous bodily harm with intent. You poured acid upon Maya Daniels, your childhood friend and sister of heart. Do you plead guilty or not guilty? The room leaned in. Reporters lifted their pens. Alyssa's lips quivered. She wanted to scream not guilty and blame the boys who mocked her, the rumor that poisoned her, the world that demanded beauty above all else. But her heart refused. She had seen Maya's bandaged face. She had heard her groans in the night. Lies could not cover that truth. Guilty, Alyssa whispered. Her voice cracked like glass. Gasps rippled across the room. The judge leaned forward, studying her as though her face were a strange book. You confess freely. Yes, Alyssa said, her tears spilling. I confess. I let envy eat me. I tried to destroy what God made. I destroyed myself instead. The judge's eyes softened, but only a little. The court will decide your sentence. But know this. Envy is a crime that begins in silence. You chose to let it grow. The prosecutor stood, her voice sharp as a blade. Your Honor, this was no accident. She purchased the acid. She carried it. She planned this act. It was premeditated. Maya Daniels' face is permanently scarred. She will never live the same again. This crime demands nothing less than the full weight of the law. Murmurs swept the courtroom. Some nodded in agreement. Others glanced toward the empty seat reserved for Maya. She could not attend. Her wounds were still fresh, but her absence was louder than any voice. Then a voice rose from the corner. Mr. Carter, the filmmaker, stood. Your Honor, if it pleases the court, I wish to submit a recording of Maya's statement. The judge nodded. The screen lit up. The room hushed. Maya's voice filled the courtroom, soft yet unshaken. Her bandaged face appeared, but it was her words that burned brighter than any flame. Alyssa was my friend, she said. We grew like two vines together. She lost her way. She hurt me. She scarred me. But hate is a poison worse than acid. Do not let hate decide her fate. Let justice decide, but let mercy breathe too. If I can forgive her, then let the world learn forgiveness through me. The courtroom was silent. Some people wept openly. Even the judge closed his eyes for a moment, as though hearing not just a victim, but a prophet. When the video ended, Alyssa sobbed into her hands. She wanted to shout, "Why do you still love me? Why do you still defend me?" Her heart cracked under the weight of forgiveness she did not deserve. The gavel struck again. The court will reconvene for sentencing tomorrow, the judge declared. Until then, Alyssa Green will remain in custody. The officers led Alyssa away. Reporters rushed out, their pens alive with fire. Headlines were already forming. Scarred but unbroken, Maya Daniels calls for mercy. Acid attack trial shocks nation with forgiveness. The face that could not be destroyed. Meanwhile, in Sunbird Village, the people gathered around a small television in the chief's compound. They watched Maya's words echo across the courtroom. Children stared in awe. Elders shook their heads. Grandma Ruth whispered, "Her scars will feed nations. The wound her friend gave her has become her crown." But not everyone in the village was ready to forgive. Some spat at the mention of Alyssa's name. Others muttered, "Let her rot in jail." The village itself was divided, torn between mercy and anger, just as Alyssa's own heart had been torn between love and envy. That night, Alyssa lay in her cell on a thin mattress. The walls were damp, the air thick. She closed her eyes and saw Maya's bandaged face speaking forgiveness into a courtroom filled with strangers. The words echoed louder than the clanging of iron doors. And somewhere far away, in a glittering office in the city, a wealthy fashion entrepreneur named Victoria Hayes watched the same trial on her television. She leaned forward, eyes sharp with interest. "That girl," she whispered, pointing to Maya on the screen. "That scar. That story. She will change everything." Her assistant blinked. "You mean Maya Daniels?" "Yes," Victoria said, a slow smile spreading across her lips. "The face Alyssa tried to destroy is about to become the face of the world." But as the world began to open its arms to Maya, the gavel had not yet fallen. Tomorrow, Alyssa would hear her sentence, and the weight of justice would land on her shoulders. The morning of sentencing arrived with a sky that looked bruised, purple and gray, as though the heavens themselves were waiting to see what would happen. Crowds swelled outside the courthouse. Reporters, curious onlookers, even church groups holding banners that read "Stop the Violence" and "Mercy for the Broken." Police officers struggled to hold the lines as television cameras turned the trial into a spectacle. Inside, the courtroom was packed tighter than the day before. Alyssa shuffled to her seat, her prison uniform wrinkled, her face pale. Her hands twisted in her lap as though she were trying to wring the guilt out of her skin. She had not slept. Maya's words from the video played over and over in her head, each syllable both balm and blade. "If I can forgive her, let the world learn forgiveness through me." The judge entered. The gavel fell once, hard and final. Silence swept the room. "Alyssa Green," the judge began, his voice echoing against the high ceiling, "you have confessed freely. You admitted your crime before this court, and the evidence against you is clear. What remains now is the sentence." A hush rippled through the crowd. Reporters bent low over their notebooks. Cameras clicked. The judge continued, his eyes locked on Alyssa. The law demands that grievous harm with intent be punished. Yet this court has also heard the words of Maya Daniels, the woman you scarred. She has asked for justice, yes, but also for mercy. It is rare in my years on this bench to hear such a request from a victim. Rare and powerful. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. Alyssa's breath shook. Her vision blurred with tears. Therefore, the judge said, his tone firm, this court sentences you to 20 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 15, for grievous bodily harm with intent. Gasps rose like a wave across the room. Some clapped in approval. Others muttered, too light. Alyssa herself crumpled forward, her shoulders shaking. She had expected life. She had expected to die behind bars. Instead, she had been handed a window. A small, distant window, but a window nonetheless. The judge's voice deepened. Your freedom may one day return, but the shadow of what you have done will never leave you. You will carry that as surely as Maya carries her scars. The gavel struck once more. The trial was over. Officers lifted Alyssa to her feet. Her knees wobbled. She turned her head once toward the bench where Mr. Carter sat. Tell her, she whispered through trembling lips. Tell her I will never stop being sorry. But the officers pulled her away before her words could travel. Outside, the news traveled faster than the wind. Headlines spread across the nation. 20-year sentence for acid attack. Forgiveness softens judge's gavel. Maya Daniels, from victim to symbol. And in the very same hour, in her glossy office tower, Victoria Hayes was making calls. Her fashion empire was known across Africa and the United States. She had an eye for stories that touched the world, and Maya's was the brightest flame she had ever seen. Get me her contact, Victoria ordered her assistant. If she agrees, Maya Daniels will be the new face of our campaign. Not despite her scars, because of them. Meanwhile, back in Sunbird Village, Grandma Ruth gathered the children beneath the baobab tree. They had been following the trial on the chief's radio, their wide eyes drinking every word. Remember this, Grandma Ruth told them. Envy will always whisper, but you must never let it speak through your hands. And forgiveness is not weakness, it is fire. Fire that burns chains. That evening, Maya sat in the healer's hut, still swathed in bandages. She did not yet know the world outside had already begun to write her name in bold letters. Mr. Carter entered quietly and knelt by her side. They sentenced her, he said. Maya's lips trembled. How long? 20 years. Maybe less if she changes. Maya was silent. She let the words settle into her bones. Then she whispered, her prison is not only iron bars. Her prison is herself. Mr. Carter nodded slowly. Then his eyes lit with something new. Maya, the world wants to hear more from you. There is someone, Victoria Hayes, a fashion icon. She saw your video. She believes your scars can become strength, that your story can inspire not only this village but the whole world. Maya's heart raced. My scars. She touched the bandages on her face. These marks that burned me. Yes, Carter said. His voice grew steadier. They tried to destroy you. Instead, they gave you something no one else can claim. A face that carries truth. A face that speaks even before you open your mouth. Maya closed her eyes. A tear slipped beneath the bandage. Her mind swirled with doubt, fear, and a spark she could not name. Could the very thing Alyssa had tried to erase become the key to something greater? She did not answer. Not yet. But outside the hut, under the bruised sky, the world was already moving. Fashion magazines prepared their spreads. Television hosts wrote their introductions. Photographers dreamed of capturing the girl who rose from ashes. And in the shadows of a prison cell, Alyssa pressed her hands together and prayed for the first time in years. The gavel had fallen. The world had judged. But destiny had only just begun to speak. The news spread faster than fire in dry grass. By the time the rains came to Sunbird Village, Maya's name had crossed oceans. Her scarred face, wrapped in gauze, stared out from the covers of magazines in New York, London, and Lagos. Headlines praised her as the girl who forgave, the face that could not be destroyed, and beauty beyond the skin. Victoria Hayes, the fashion mogul, moved quickly. Within weeks, her team of stylists, managers, and photographers arrived at the small healer's hut. Their shiny black jeeps startled goats and drew children who ran alongside, shouting and laughing. The whole village spilled into the square to see. Maya, still weak, still afraid of mirrors, sat on her mat when the door opened. Victoria stepped in, tall and confident, wearing a white suit that seemed untouched by the dust of the road. Her eyes softened when they landed on Maya. "You are more powerful than you know," Victoria said. Her voice was low, rich, certain. "The world is ready for your story, but it will only go if you let it." Maya shifted uncomfortably. "How can the world want scars?" she whispered. "Scars are shame. Ugliness." "No," Victoria said firmly. "Scars are truth. Scars are survival. Everyone hides theirs inside. You wear yours where the world can see. That makes you stronger than them all." Grandma Ruth, standing at the door, nodded slowly. "Child, the same fire that burns the forest makes the soil rich. Out of pain, something new can grow." Mr. Carter leaned closer. "Maya, this is your chance. Your story can build schools, clinics, everything you dreamed of. Alyssa tried to take your light. Don't let her succeed. Shine brighter." The room grew still. Maya trembled. For weeks she had avoided her reflection, too afraid to face the truth. But slowly, she lifted her hand to the bandages. With the healer's help, they began to unwrap. The cloth fell away piece by piece, until her face was bare. The room gasped softly. Half her face was lined with scars, pink and angry against her brown skin. The once smooth cheek now rippled like melted wax. Her lips curved unevenly. One eye was framed by ridges of healed flesh. Maya froze, tears brimming. "I am ruined," she whispered. But Victoria shook her head. "You are radiant." She took Maya's chin gently. "This face will walk the world. Not in shame. In power." Began slowly. First a single photo shoot. Maya wore bold African prints, her scars framed by gold jewelry that caught the light. When the pictures were released, the world did not look away. Instead, it leaned closer. People cried. People cheered. Letters poured in. Women who had survived burns, soldiers who carried wounds, children who had lost limbs. "You give us hope," they wrote. "You show us that broken can be beautiful." Then came interviews. Maya's voice, soft but unshaken, told the story again and again, not of destruction but of resilience and forgiveness. She never named Alyssa in anger. She spoke instead of mercy, of healing, of turning pain into seed. Money began to flow. Sponsorships, speaking engagements, fashion contracts. In less than a year, Maya had more wealth than Sunbird Village had ever seen. But true to her word, she built. A clinic rose at the edge of the market square, with white walls that gleamed in the sun. A school with painted desks and shelves of books followed. Children no longer had to read only under the baobab tree. The villagers bowed their heads in respect when Maya passed. Some called her Mama Fire, others the Scarred Queen. To them, she was no longer just a girl. They believed the ancestors had chosen her. But while the world crowned Maya with glory, another world rotted in shadows. In prison, Alyssa lived in torment. The walls were narrow, the food bitter, the air thick with sweat and regret. She had thought jail would be punishment enough. But the real punishment was the newspaper clippings smuggled inside, the radio programs that guards played, the gossip of other inmates. Everywhere she heard Maya's name. Maya the millionaire. Maya the survivor. Maya the forgiver. At night, Alyssa buried her face in the thin prison pillow and wept. The very scars she had created had turned into jewels. Her own hands had built Maya's crown. The envy that had driven her once returned, fiercer, uglier. But alongside the envy came shame. Shame that twisted like a knife every time she remembered Maya's words. Do not hate her. One evening, during chapel hour, Alyssa collapsed on the cold floor. Her chest heaved, her tears soaking the cement. God, why did you let her rise? She cried. Why not me? Why must her scars be stars while my beauty rots in this cage? The prison chaplain, a calm old man with eyes like rain, knelt beside her. Because envy chained you, he said softly. But chains can be broken. Even here. Alyssa lifted her face, streaked with tears. Can forgiveness reach a cell? The chaplain smiled faintly. Forgiveness is the only thing that fits through bars. Alyssa lay back, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since that night at the well, she let herself whisper, Maya, forgive me. But far away, in a grand hall in Lagos, Maya stood before hundreds at an international conference. Cameras flashed as she spoke. My scars are my crown. They tried to silence me, but I will not be silent. I will use my story to heal others. The crowd roared. Reporters scribbled. Investors extended hands. Maya had become what no one imagined, a queen born not of smoothness but of scars. And yet, as the applause shook the hall, a letter was already on its way to her. A letter with shaky handwriting. A letter from Alyssa. The world celebrated Maya's rise. But soon the story would bend again, toward the woman in prison who had once tried to destroy her. The letter arrived folded in a thin brown envelope, its edges frayed as if it had traveled a long, painful road. The handwriting was shaky, the ink blotched with what looked like drops of water. Tears, perhaps, or maybe sweat from trembling hands. Maya sat in her new home in Lagos, a house filled with glass windows, soft lights, and the hum of air conditioners that never slept. Her assistant placed the letter on the mahogany table. This came from the prison, she said gently. From Alyssa. For a long moment, Maya simply stared. Her fingers hovered but did not touch. The scars on her face itched, as if they knew whose words waited inside. Finally she broke the seal. The paper shook in her hands as she read. Asterisk Maya. I do not know how to start. My shame is bigger than these walls. Every night I hear your voice. You said do not hate me, but I hate myself. I dream of your face, before and after, and I wake with fire in my chest. I am not asking you to forget. I am not asking you to heal my guilt. I am only asking this. Will you ever look at me again without turning away? I destroyed your beauty, but I see now that I destroyed mine first. Forgive me, Alyssa. Asterisk. The words blurred as tears filled Maya's eyes. For months she had stood before the world, strong, steady, crowned with courage. But now, in the silence of her home, she was only Maya, the girl who once laughed under the baobab tree with her best friend. She folded the letter slowly, pressing it to her chest. Grandma Ruth's words echoed in her mind. Forgiveness is fire. Fire that burns chains. But could forgiveness stretch as far as prison walls? Could it heal not just scars of skin, but scars of soul? That night Maya could not sleep. She paced her room, her bare feet silent against the polished floor. At last she made a decision. The next morning she called Mr. Carter and Victoria Hayes. I need to go back, she said. To the prison. To see Alyssa. Both protested. It is dangerous, Carter warned. Think of your image, Victoria added. You are a brand now, Maya. The world looks up to you. What will they say if you are seen embracing the woman who tried to destroy you? Maya's scarred lips curved into a sad smile. They will say I am human. They will say I remember. If my story is only about scars and money, then it is nothing. If it is about forgiveness, then it is everything. And so, a week later, Maya returned to the prison. The gates groaned open, metal grinding against metal. Guards eyed her with curiosity and respect. They had seen her face on television, even on the covers of their wives' magazines. Alyssa sat in the visitors' hall, her prison uniform hanging loosely from her thin frame. When Maya entered, every head turned. The room fell silent, as though the air itself stopped breathing. Alyssa lifted her eyes and froze. Maya stood before her, tall, scarred, radiant in her plain white dress. Her scars caught the light, gleaming like lines of battle. For a long moment neither moved. Finally Alyssa whispered, "You came." "I came," Maya said softly. Tears rushed to Alyssa's eyes. She fell to her knees on the concrete floor, pressing her forehead against Maya's feet. "I am sorry. I am sorry. I wanted to steal your light, but I only gave you more. I wanted to bury you, but you grew taller than trees. Forgive me, Maya. Please forgive me before I die in this cell." The guards moved to pull her up, but Maya raised her hand. She bent down, touched Alyssa's shoulders, and lifted her. "Stand," Maya said. "We were two hands once. Two vines once. You cut me, but I lived. Now I choose to forgive, not for you alone but for me. So I will not carry poison in my chest." Alyssa sobbed loudly, her body shaking. "Why, Maya? After all I did. Why forgive me?" Maya's eyes glistened. "Because mercy is stronger than hate. And because I remember the girl who braided my hair under the baobab tree." The room was silent, except for Alyssa's sobs. Even the guards turned away, blinking back tears. News of the visit spread like wildfire. Reporters captured the image of Maya embracing Alyssa in her prison uniform. The photograph circled the globe. The scarred millionaire forgives her attacker. Some praised her. Others mocked her. But none could ignore her. In Sunbird Village, children repeated her words. Forgiveness is fire. In cities across the world, survivors of pain lifted their heads, whispering, "If Maya can forgive, maybe I can too." And in her cell that night, Alyssa lay awake on her thin mattress, her heart lighter than it had been since the night at the well. For the first time, she dared to believe that even behind bars she could be free. But destiny had one more twist to give. For just as Maya's story reached its highest peak, an invitation arrived from across the ocean. America wanted her. A global stage. Chance to speak before thousands. The scars Alyssa meant to destroy were about to walk into the biggest spotlight the world had to offer. And neither sister of the heart could imagine what would happen there. The letterhead bore the seal of the United Nations. Maya held the invitation in her hands, her heart racing. They wanted her to speak at the World Humanitarian Summit in New York. Leaders, activists, presidents, and millions watching across television screens. Her voice, her scars, her story would reach the world. "From a village well to the world stage," Mr. Carter said, his voice trembling with awe. "Maya, this is history. Do you realize?" Maya only nodded, her fingers brushing the ridges of her scars. "If my pain can light even one dark place, then let it shine." When she arrived in America, cameras flashed brighter than stars. Crowds lined the streets, holding signs that read, "We love you. Maya and scars are strength." Fashion houses begged for interviews. Talk shows fought for her time. Yet Maya remained calm, her white dresses simple, her gold jewelry bold, her words steady. On the night of the summit, the grand hall buzzed with power. Delegates filled the seats, translators adjusted their headsets, and the world leaned forward. When Maya stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. The lights caught her scars, turning them into silver rivers across her skin. She stood tall, her voice firm. "They tried to destroy my face. But a face is not what makes us human. Our choices do. My best friend poured acid on me because she was blind with envy. But I chose to forgive her, because forgiveness is stronger than hate. I stand before you not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as a broken woman, but as a whole one. My scars are not shame, they are my crown." The hall erupted in applause. Leaders rose to their feet. Some wiped their eyes. Cameras flashed endlessly. The world had found not just a model, not just a story, but a symbol. That night, while Maya's speech replayed on screens from New York to Lagos, Alyssa sat in her prison cell listening to a battered radio. When she heard Maya's words, her tears fell fast, soaking her thin blanket. For the first time, she smiled through the tears. "She forgave me before the world," Alyssa whispered. Then maybe one day I can forgive myself. Years passed. Maya's wealth grew into millions, but she poured it into others. Clinics across villages, schools filled with books, programs for burned survivors. She became more than a face. She became a movement. Women once ashamed of scars now walked proudly. Men who had hidden wounds revealed them. Children pointed at Maya's pictures and said, "She looks like me." In prison, Alyssa transformed slowly. She led prayer groups. She taught other inmates to read. She became a voice against envy, warning them with her own story. Though bars still held her, her spirit grew freer with each passing year. One day years later, Maya visited again. This time Alyssa was older, thinner, but her eyes clearer. The two women embraced, truly, fully. "We lost years," Alyssa whispered. "But we are finding them again." Maya smiled, her scarred lips curving with grace. Yes, forgiveness builds bridges where fire once burned them down. The world continued to celebrate Maya, the millionaire whose scars turned into jewels, the survivor who taught mercy to nations. But in her heart, she knew the truth. Wealth and fame were not the real victory. The true victory was that the acid meant to destroy her had instead built a river of healing wide enough for her and Alyssa to cross together. And so the story that began with betrayal ended with redemption. In Sunbird Village, children still sat under the baobab tree. Grandma Ruth's voice, now weak with age, told them the tale. Her best friend poured acid on her face. But the face she tried to destroy made her a millionaire, yes. More than that, it made her a queen of hearts. Remember this, children, envy burns but forgiveness builds. And when you choose mercy, no one can destroy the light inside you. The drumbeat echoed softly in the background, steady as life itself. The scars remained, the pain remained, but so did the fire of forgiveness. And that fire lit the whole world.